What's going on, everybody out there in YouTube land? Today's the first day of unleavened bread, where Yahweh commands his people to get all the leaven out of their houses, out of your gates. Yeshua also talked about leaven, false teachings. Hopefully this video will help get some of that old leaven, false teachings out. One of the most well-known verses in the world is John 3:16. That's the first scripture I want to read. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only brought forth Son, so that everyone who believes in him should not perish, but possess everlasting life. There's a key word in this verse, everlasting. Many people hold this verse in high esteem. So God asked the question, does everlasting in this verse mean anything different than everlasting when it appears in numerous lots of times in the Torah? Let me read a couple. Exodus 12:17 says, you shall guard the festival of unleavened bread, for on the same day I brought your divisions out of the land of Mizraim. And you shall guard this day throughout your generations an everlasting law. Is that any different than everlasting John 3:16? Exodus 31:16 says, and the children of Israel shall guard the Sabbath to observe the Sabbath throughout the generations as an everlasting covenant. Again, is that everlasting any different than John 3:16? Before I read any of the so-called proof texts that people use, really what they do is twist Paul's writings, I want to read a warning from his brother Peter. It's in 2 Peter 3:14 through 17. Verse 14. So then, beloved ones, looking forward to this, do your utmost to be found by him in peace, spotless and blameless, and reckon the patience of our Master as deliverance, as also our beloved brother Shaul wrote to you according to the wisdom given to him, as also in all his letters, speaking in them concerning these matters, in which some are hard to understand, which those who are untaught and unstable twist to their own destruction, as they do also the other scriptures. Here's the key verse. You then, beloved ones, being forewarned, watch lest you also fall from your own steadfastness, being led away with the delusion of the lawless. There were people in Paul's time that couldn't even understand his writings. So how can we, Westerners with a Greek mindset, understand his writings? I'll do a video later about the Greek and Hebraic mindset. Paul had a Hebraic mindset. Keep that in mind every time you read his writings. One of the most commonly twisted verses of Paul to say the law is done away with is Galatians 3, verse 24 and 25. But I'm going to read 23, 24, and 25. Just a side note, most of the time when I read the scriptures from the ISR of the scriptures, translated from the Institute for Scripture Research. I will from time to time read a King James verse, but most of the time it's that. Just FYI. So Galatians 3:23. But before belief came, we were being guarded under Torah, having been shut up for the belief being about to be revealed. Therefore the Torah became our trainer unto Messiah, in order to be declared right by belief. And after belief has come, we are no longer under a trainer. In the King James it says schoolmaster in verse 25. So is Paul saying the everlasting law or Torah of Yahweh is done away with in verse 25? A great question to ask folks that usually say the law is done away with, see, is if the law or Torah is your schoolmaster, what did you learn? How much did you learn under his tutelage? And how long were you under his tutelage? Most folks that use those verses to say that the law is done away with are not very knowledgeable in the Torah in the first place. Another very commonly twisted verse of Paul say the law is done away with is Colossians 2. I'm going to read 11 through 17. Verse 11. In him you were also circumcised with the circumcision not made with hands, in the putting off of the body of the sins of the flesh but the circumcision of Messiah, having been buried with him in immersion, in which you were also raised with him through the belief in the working of Elohim, who raised him from the dead. And you, being dead in the trespasses and the uncircumcision of the flesh, he has made alive together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses, having blotted out the certificate of debt against us by the dogmas which stood against us, and he has taken it out of the way, having nailed it to the stake. Having stripped the principalities and authorities, he made a public display of them, having prevailed over them in it. Let no one therefore judge you in eating or in drinking in respect of a festival or new moon or Sabbaths, which are a shadow of which is to come, but the body of the Messiah. Up to this point, it looks like Paul might be saying law's done away with, especially in verse 14. But let's keep it in context and keep reading, see what he's talking about. Verse 18. Let no one deprive you of the prize, one who takes delight in false humility and worship of messengers, taking his stand on what he has not seen, puffed up by his fleshly mind, and not holding fast to the head, from whom all the body, nourished and knit together by joints and ligaments, grows with the growth of Elohim. Even then you died with the Messiah from the elementary matters of the world. Why? As though living in the world, do you subject yourselves to regulations? Do not touch, do not taste, do not handle. Here's the key. Which are all to perish with use, according to the commands and teachings of men. Paul was referring to teachings and traditions of men, not the everlasting Torah of Yahweh. I want to read a few of the Messiah Yeshua's words to add a little flavor to this video. I'll be reading Matthew 5:17 through 19. Do not think that I came to destroy the Torah or the prophets. Did not come to destroy, but to complete. For truly I say to you, till the heaven and the earth pass away, one jot or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so, shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reign of the heavens. If Paul taught that the Torah was done away with, then what does that make him? Least in the kingdom. Paul did not come to straighten out Yeshua. I think that's worth repeating. Paul did not come to straighten out Yeshua. Let's read a couple other verses in Matthew 5, after he said that, don't even think it. Verses 38 and 39. You heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the wicked, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him. Bam! There you go. The law's done away with. The Messiah changed the Torah. Hold up, Buster. Wait a minute. Didn't he just say, don't even think that in verse 17? In the same Sermon on the Mount. The Messiah is just giving his interpretation on those commands in the Torah. The Messiah's mission was not to do away with the Torah, but to show us how to walk perfectly in it. Another very commonly used verse said that Torah is done away with of Paul's is Romans 6:14. For sin shall not rule over you, for you are not under the law, but under favor. And it says under grace in the King James. Paul is talking about two different laws in Romans, the law of Yahweh and the law of sin. If Paul is boo on the Torah, then why did he say this in the next chapter, Romans 7:22? For I delight in the Torah of Elohim, according to the inward man. Why in the world would he say he delights in the Torah if he teaches that it's done away with? Let's keep reading. Chapter 7, 23 through 25. But I see another law in my members, battling against the Torah of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members. Wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from this body of death? Thanks to Elohim through Yeshua Messiah our Master. So then, with the mind, I myself truly serve the Torah of Elohim, but with the flesh, the law of sin. Now, how is it possible that something that is everlasting is done away with? Let's look at a couple of verses where we see that Yahweh does not change in the New and the Old Testament. Malachi 3:6. For I am Yahweh, I shall not change, and you, O sons of Jacob, shall not come to an end. Psalms 89:34. I shall not profane my covenant, neither would I change what has gone out of my lips. And for the viewers out there that have to have evidence from the New Testament, here's one. James 1:17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change, nor shadow of turning. We've looked at a few verses where people twist Paul's writings. Let's look at another verse and see some of his words, see what he has to say. Acts 21:24. Take them and be cleansed with them, and pay their expenses so that they shave their heads, and also shall know that what they have been informed about you is not so, but that you yourselves also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. Let me read that again. But that you yourself also walk orderly, keeping the Torah. Now we had to sit here and pause and ask, is Paul a liar? Is Paul confused? I don't think so. Another question I had to ask for all the people that believe that law is done away with: what is sin? More specifically, what does Scripture define sin as? 1 John 3:4 does that for us. Everyone doing sin also does lawlessness, and sin is lawlessness. If the law is done away with, then there is no sin in the world. If the law is done away with, how do we know right from wrong? The last two verses I want to read in the video is John 5:46 and 47. For if you believed Moshe, you would have believed me, since he wrote about me. But if you do not believe his writings, how shall you believe my words? You can clearly see that the law is not done away with. You can even see that from the Messiah's words. Again, Paul did not come to straighten out Yeshua, and he sure did not come to straighten out Yahweh. So that's who gave the Torah. Shalom.